CBS News Miami.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Naja Sherman, and welcome to CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast. We begin with the passing of Pope Francis. We learned late this afternoon he died from a stroke. The Vatican said in a statement that put him in a coma and led to heart failure. He will be remembered by some as being a somewhat progressive pope, becoming history's first Latin American pontiff. In his 12 years in the role, he accomplished quite a bit. Touching tributes are pouring in from around the world. Bells at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris rang 88 times in honor of the late Pope. A similar scene from other iconic cathedrals across the globe: Mexico, Spain, the Philippines, Argentina, all ringing their bells to honor Pope Francis. CBS News Miami's Tina Krause has more on his life and legacy.
From his first words as Pope,
Fratelli e sorelle, buonasera.
Francis displayed a humble style that earned him the nickname the People's Pope, often wearing plain robes and living in a small apartment at the Vatican. Born in Argentina in 1936, Jorge Bergoglio became a priest in 1969 and Archbishop of Buenos Aires in 1998. He earned another nickname there, the Bishop of the Slums. He rode the bus, cooked his own meals, and preached in the poorest neighborhoods. The Pope's humility was visible during his visit to the U.S. in 2015. He rode in a small car and his Pope-mobile while getting around in Washington, D.C., New York, and Philadelphia.
In the land of the free, at the home of the brave.
The Holy Father made history when he addressed Congress and celebrated Mass with hundreds of thousands of people in Philadelphia. The Pope also brought a message to U.S. Catholics to take care of those less fortunate. On the final day of his trip, he met with victims of sex abuse. In 2019, Pope Francis expelled disgraced former U.S. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick after a Vatican investigation found him guilty of sexually abusing children. He was the most high-profile church figure to be defrocked in modern times.
We ask forgiveness for our sins.
The move came just weeks before nearly 200 senior church leaders met for a landmark Vatican summit to prevent clergy sex abuse.
Nei confronti dei bambini.
Despite the clergy abuse scandal, the Pope worked at making the church more welcoming. He launched a worldwide survey on contraception, premarital sex, and homosexuality. The Pope said gay people should not be marginalized and famously asked, "Who am I to judge?" Francis made history in 2023, leading the funeral of his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI. That same year, he celebrated the first decade of his papacy with the release of his first podcast, or Popecast. In an historic interview with CBS's Norah O'Donnell in 2024, the Pope addressed criticisms of his efforts to revisit teachings and traditions of the Church.
One thing is to take tradition into account, to consider situations from the past, but quite another is to be closed up inside a dogmatic box.
Francis, who had part of his lung removed when he was younger, battled a number of health issues in his later years, including hospitalizations for bronchitis. Supporters will forever remember him as a revolutionary pope, crediting him with choosing service and kindness over the power of the papacy. Tina Krause, CBS News.
Closer to home, worshipers across South Florida are also mourning the loss of the Pope. The Archdiocese of Miami held a special Mass in honor of the pontiff's life and legacy. The Archbishop shared some fond memories of meeting the Pope. CBS News Miami's Morgan Reiner was there.
I was extremely surprised because, of course, yesterday we just saw him at the Vatican greeting the people and blessing the people.
Churchgoers like Yvonne Pacifico woke up Monday morning shocked to hear Pope Francis passed away.
He was a pope for the people, and his message was of love and of acceptance.
The Archbishop of Miami, Thomas Wensky, said Pope Francis really was the people's pope, recognized that around the world, people did not trust large institutions.
sea. He didn't ride in limousines. He rode in small Fiats. He carried his own bag. When he was elected Pope, he went back to the priest hotel where he was staying to pay his bill. And so, those gestures communicated an openness to a new world.
And will be remembered as a Pope of firsts.
He was the first Pope from Latin America, the first Jesuit Pope, the first Pope to address a joint session of the United States Congress. He was also the first Pope to name women to high positions.
Archbishop Wenski said he met with Pope Francis a handful of times and fondly remembers his sense of humor.
I told him that I was from Miami, and I said the best thing about Miami is that it is so close to the United States. And so the Pope really laughed at that.
And his impact in the Caribbean, like naming the first Haitian cardinal or visiting Cuba multiple times.
To say that, it's not your wealth or your status that, defines your importance in the eyes of God. It's the fact that you are a child of God.
Coming up at 5, more local connections to Pope Francis. Stay with CBS News Miami on air and online for continuing coverage. The rip currents have been brutal, leading to 1 death and dozens of rescues across South Florida this weekend. 13-year-old Jerry Hoppolite of Palm Beach County drowned off Fort Lauderdale Beach on Friday. Fire rescues in both Miami-Dade and Broward report about 100 rescues combined from the weekend. You'll find red flags up and down the coast.
Always alerting, always tracking. This is Next Weather.
Next Weather Chief Meteorologist Ivan Cabrera joins us now. Ivan, a lot of people on spring break the next week or so will be out on the beaches. Really important reminder how dangerous it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where large waves you can see, so a lot of folks see that as a caution to kind of stay on the sand. Can't see the rip currents unless you really know what you're looking for here. We're going to continue with that threat pretty high for the next 24 hours, and then we'll see that diminishing a bit. So that's what we're working on. We'll talk about the rips, the winds, and also the warm temperatures are going to continue. With that east wind, we'll get a little bit of more moisture towards the end of the week. I think that'll begin to increase our rain chances, but it's going to be a while before we get anything significant here across South Florida. So here we go. The rip current alert continues. My advice, as I said last week, just avoid getting in the water. 2 fatalities so far in South Florida this year, and they have both happened in April here. We average about 4 a year, so halfway there, and it's not a number we like to see rising here. So tomorrow, because of the wind, because the conditions out there, still dangerous to be on the water, 2 to 3 foot waves, but as I mentioned, that's not really the issue. It's that undercurrent that can sweep any swimmer, including experienced ones, off to the distance there. So this is the wind speed right now, so it's a little bit better, 10 to 15, but it's 20 to 25, but it's that persistent flow out of the east that's been an issue with us over the next few days. Let's talk about the forecast and check in on the radar as well, because we haven't seen much activity across South Florida. No complaints over the weekend, right? It was gorgeous here with just a few fair weather clouds. That's about as much moisture as we have, only to make a few clouds. That's it. Low 80s right now as we check in on that flow coming in out of the east. Now, occasionally and eventually towards the end of the week, there's going to be enough moisture that we'll be able to start cranking out a couple of showers. But it's nothing organized. It's just low-level moisture. That's it. This is the same map and the same position of that area of high pressure that I showed you all last week, right? It hasn't budged all that much. And so all the weather has been kept to our north and west, and that's about where it will stay. This high will dominate for most of the week, eventually weakening, but the air is so dry, it's still going to keep us on the low end rain chances. We're going to stay warm and breezy through tomorrow, Wednesday. It really isn't until Thursday into Friday that I see a little bit more to work with here as far as potential shower activity. 10% coverage begins Thursday, and that's something, right? I mean, we need the rain, obviously, at the drought conditions here, but 20%, I don't think that's going to be too heavy. In fact, you time out or you cover all those days, and we're probably not going to get half an inch of rain, even though we have 20% coverage there. Humidity creeping up a little bit, right? So you feel that next few days. Temperatures will be in the 80s for tomorrow with a mix of sun and clouds. Next Weather 7 day will feature much more of the same. Temps in the mid-80s, but with enough moisture by the end of the week. That's when we'll start introducing some rain chances. Not a huge deal for the upcoming weekend.
Ivan, thank you. Developing now from Orlando, a Delta airplane carrying 200 passengers caught fire at Orlando International Airport. The airline says the fire started in the tailpipe of one of the aircraft's two engines. Video of the fire shows flames and smoke coming from the right side of the Airbus A330. Other video posted on social media shows the plane's emergency slides deployed with passengers standing nearby. Flight 1213 was scheduled for depart from Atlanta. There were no initial reports of injuries. It is back to class for students at FSU for the first time since last week's mass shooting, the latest when we come back.
It was the custody battle that captivated South Florida and the world. A young boy taken from his Miami home to be sent back to Cuba. 25 years later, what is Elian Gonzalez's life like now? And what does the future hold for him? A CBS News Miami streaming special.
Hey everyone, I'm Betty Nguyen. Coming up tomorrow on CBS News Miami Morning Edition, live team coverage of the passing of Pope Francis from the Vatican to South Florida and around the world. In fact, how the pontiff is being remembered after his passing at the age of 88. Make sure to join us tomorrow morning, starting at 6 a.m.
Breaking news from Wall Street. The Dow ended the day down more than 950 points. That's after President Trump demanded Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, quote, lower rates now, and that has rattled investors. Classes resumed today at Florida State University. It is 4 days after the mass shooting on campus that killed 2 men and hurt 5 other people. Some students told us it is too soon to go back. The FSU president says there are options for students who are not ready to return to class. They include remote classes. Mandatory attendance policies that impact a student's grade have been waived. Students can contact their instructor about how to complete any required work. Another option is to request an incomplete grade. 3 victims have been released from the hospital. 2 others are also expected to be released today. A 6th patient remains hospitalized but in good condition. And that does it for the CBS News Miami Quickcast. I'm Naja Sherman. Stay tuned for more news right here on CBS News Miami, and have a good day.